Hi, I'm Richard Mackay.
And I'm David Gold, and you are listening to the Wrong Bias Podcast. And on today's show, we have a few bits that remain from our discussion with Jason Parkinson from our last podcast. We are going to do a little bit of a catch-up on the World Series bowls that caused a bit of a stir a few years back. We've also got our regular competition sponsored by Alex Marshall Sports, Lean to Succeed in Bowls as Bowls. And we've also got a new feature that we've added to the podcast, and we're doing a little 5-minute roundup, dropping a few lines in there about what's happening around the world in different sports.
Right, mate, here we are again, show number 29. Our anniversary is furniture.
Yes, I think we said we were going to pop to IKEA for this one.
What I would give for a trip to IKEA. When I get to IKEA, I'm just going to sit in on the swivel chairs, mate. I'm going to sit in every chair and sit in all them, do you know them sort of like designer kitchens and bedrooms? I'm just going to lounge around in them, mate. I'm going to milk it.
It's gonna be strange, isn't it, when we get back out to be able to do things again. It's gonna be nice.
It is. Apart from seeing people queuing up from Greg's, I think that's about it, isn't it? At the minute.
And that's pretty much me every day.
You got shares, like. I've noticed the shares are going up.
I should have. I'll be a very rich man.
Anyway, mate, the signs are good for a return to outdoor bowls. Obviously, depending on the forthcoming government's guidance and Bowls England's guidance. So that'll be nice to get back out in the green.
Well, it is looking really positive, isn't it? So I think it's going to be a slow burner, and I think that's a good thing. You know, I would have thought the main part of the season potentially is going to start towards the end of May, start of June. Yeah. But I think more than anything, at least it just gives us a bit of hope just to get back out again. And like we're saying, just get back into some sort of reality again. I've been quite comfortable with the stuck inside for up until the last couple of months, but I'm sick to death now. So kind of wait for the greens to open, kind of wait for the golf courses to open, and then you'll not see me for about 9 months.
We'll have to have a satellite for you for our next one, mate. We're going to hole 17 in the bunker, Davy Bull.
It'll definitely be in the bunker. It'll be in the bunker as our friend Mr. Storff keeps saying. I'll be in the trees, one of the two.
in the trees with a saw, or in the bunkers with a shovel. Dealing with Bowls England, the words afoot that they're changing the format for the championships. So plans are in place to possibly change the format. Pairs to 3 bowl 18 ends.
Yep.
To 2 bowl 18 ends. 4s to 15 ends. And the 2 bowl down to 1 bowl.
Yeah, you said jest.
Yeah. I jest.
It's always been talked about, well, certainly over the last year or two, about adopting the formats to correspond with the Commonwealth Games. Yeah. I was a bit surprised that they've done it as quick as what they have. I suppose there's 2 ways of thinking about it. Obviously, shorter games, quicker format, less time down on the greens at the Nationals once it happens. Just wonder whether there'll be any backlash from anybody who potentially entered those competitions initially based on the original format.
Yeah.
Well, time will tell on that, and I'm sure Bowls England will have to deal with that feedback, and let's just hope it doesn't come as feedback of people dropping out of the competition, which...
It's probably come on the back of the position that we're in climate-wise, and probably a little bit from the Back to Bowl survey that they did, because there were questions in there about the formats, and I'm sure they've acknowledged that people want quicker, shorter games, so to change the formats is probably in response a little bit to both of them, mate, do you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm more than happy with the change of the formats. I didn't expect it to come as quick, but I always thought it would come. But the other one, which has come out, obviously, with regards just the one qualifier, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, county champion.
Again, I don't know whether that's going to go down too well. I think a lot of people enter those competitions based on the fact that you've got a bit of a chance to get down to your national finals. Yeah. So again, time will tell. It is what it is, and whatever the rules are, you've just got to play to them for what they are. I just hope it doesn't have too much of a negative effect on entries and people participating.
Well, I mean, I'm in two minds for that one, because I just think if you reduce the number going down, then you reduce the chances of the likes of the underdog actually reaching Leamington and getting the experience. You know what I mean?
My argument on that one, Richie, I mean, I was part of one of the forums, and the feedback I gave was that what I would like to see, I like the fact that the winner and the runner goes up, but what I've never liked is the fact that the runner-up can actually be in a better position down at Leamington than what the winner is.
Yeah.
Now, for me, there's got to be more help for the county finals in respect of a lot of people's final is the semi-final. So, you know, for some who might be regular qualifiers, that final becomes a bit of a non-entity because you've done the hard work as to what you want to get to. So for me, I think if there was an incentive to actually win that county final, whereas you were 1 or 2 rounds ahead of the runner-up, I feel that's a much fairer situation to be in down at Leamington. Yeah. Because, you know, we've seen before, you win your county and you're stuck in the prelim and you're looking down the draw and you're going, hang on a second, I've beaten him and he's in the first round.
He's in the first.
He's in the second round or whatever. And I think that's, for me, that doesn't give incentive. Yeah. Where it's needed. And I think we've discussed it as well before. It comes down to that whole thing of somebody who's been beaten can be national champion.
National champion, that's right.
So make it harder for them to win the national championship. Get them in 2 rounds before all the winners start to join in. Bring the winners in at the last 32 or whatever, you know. So that was my feedback. Let's just go with the thing of be thankful we can get back out in the greens. And
well, that's right. I mean, it might just be for this year with COVID, you know, because you're never going to get the numbers for your national championships that you had the last one that they had. You just, it's in the current climate, it would be impossible. So maybe this is just a one-off thing. And
well, next year is going to be completely different as well, because
Commonwealth Games, isn't it?
Commonwealth Games. So as far as I'm aware, we're not actually able to use the Leamington Greens for the national finals because of the Commonwealth Games. So I think they're potentially going to be dispersed to other clubs in and around the Warwickshire area. So again, it's just wait and see, and I'm sure we'll be kept up to date by Bowls England on that front. And those who want to enter will enter, and those who don't will don't.
Well, that's right, mate. I don't know whether you had a read of it, but I got me Bowls England annual report through the post. I paid for it. Lovely brochure, mate. Absolutely very professional, very polished. All I'll say at the end of the day is actions will speak louder than words, mate. The other one would be, which is not a surprise, the indoor national finals have obviously been put back again till, is it September, October?
Yeah, I remember. I don't want to say off the top of my head, but it is at the start of the season, isn't it? It's relatively early.
Yeah. Yeah, so fingers crossed that they'll get them played off, because the people who's qualified do deserve a chance to get the end of the journey. Oh, I've said the journey. It's like being in the X Factor. Oh God! Oh, right.
You'll have them talking about the nan and the gran and all kinds.
Yeah, I didn't go toenail. I've hobbled here.
I did it because it's what my gran always wanted.
Yeah, me bunions. I played before and all the time because me bunions was giving us trouble.
It'll be interesting though, because that year and a half or nearly 2 years it'll be by the time we get there. That can be a big old difference on somebody's game.
Oh, so yes, mate.
Those who qualified who were maybe in really good form don't necessarily come back in that same form, do you? So.
And now we catch up with Mark Courtney for an update on the ill-fated World Series Bowls.
So, on our previous podcast, we had Neil Smith from the Open Singles Circuit, and Neil made a little bit of a pointer towards where the OSC come from. Cut a long story short, the OSC came from what was once upon a time Planet Bowls, which ran at a very similar concept with regards to competitions with sets, playing for a weekend or a daily prize. From the Planet Bowls, Steve Roberts set up World Series Bowls, which at the time was looking very lucrative to bowlers, huge amount of interest, and in a lot of respects, A lot of bowlers turned around and said, this is exactly what we've needed for such a long time. And we wanted competitions that you could play for and actually earn yourself potentially a little bit of money. So just a general gist, the World Series Bowls, there was going to be a number of competitions and it was £50 entry, playing down at a venue. And I believe, I will get this confirmed, but it was around about, I think, £10,000. And the TV were potentially going to be involved. There was a new website and a lot of players, and I know quite a few, actually got sponsorship from their own companies, put their own money in and paid in advance to basically boost this opportunity and hopefully play for some really, really good money. And, you know, we saw this as potentially a first step towards maybe semi-professional type bowls. So, point of view, it'll be no surprise to anybody, but for anybody who isn't aware, Mr. Roberts then disappeared and we were left with a little bit of a carcass in some respects. World Series Bowls had nowhere to go, had no money to go with, and there was a lot of upset and disappointed players, organisers, TV, etc., etc. So there has been a lot of questions asked by people, and obviously due to confidentiality and due to ongoing investigations, etc., it hasn't always been able to tell what the facts are. But what we have got is Mark Courtney, who is here to basically just give us a little bit of an understanding as to what happened in the events from World Series Bowls and from the events of Steve obviously going missing. Anything that we discuss is obviously factual and nothing that we're making up. And I think it's really important that a lot of bowlers out there know about this, because basically, you know, it seems to have just disappeared, and thankfully OSC came along and sort of built the trust back up of those players. So to move on, Mark, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Pleasure.
So Mark, hats off to you, and I know a couple of other associates who I know you'll probably discuss, but you know, you have not let this lie. From this instance happening, you've done a lot of work, and I know I've put a lot of money into finding out exactly what the situation is and was, and why it happened, and what's going to basically, is anything going to come off the back of a lot of players losing their money, etc. So can you just give us a little bit of an understanding as to the timeline of obviously the events of World Series Bowls, where it started, what you knew about it, and then obviously up to what happened with Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, delighted to. First thing is, with Arthur Thompson, who has very much come from the ex-policeman side of life, has done a huge amount of work as well, and he's done an awful lot of travelling, and in many ways it has been suggested, and not just by Arthur, that actually he's been doing a lot of the legwork for the police. So, and people won't realise the amount of hours Arthur was spent travelling around, getting evidence, following up. There's so many false leads that we all have. And so Arthur's very much the police side. And my interest is from a finance director who has spent many years working in various industries within which the word is phoenixes. What I mean by that is companies deliberately go bust, deliberately restructure. And I never had the opportunity personally in the time at work, when you're working in long hours, to really ask the question, what redress is allowed within the law? So I saw this as personally a great opportunity to really spend some time in it. And me and Arthur, however it happened, met up and just agreed to go forward. So that's the context of two characters, and we agreed this is just wrong. Yeah, we explore the issues to its extent, and we really work together as a team. And the other name that's I think just relevant to remind people and thank is Martin Sonato, who formed a Facebook group. So let's go back to the timeline then. And what we're talking about, allegations of fraud, theft, other crimes, illegal actions. I won't mention names if that's okay for you both, but you know, it'll just make me sleep better at night at the moment. So but I think everybody knows, and there's various websites that we can look at. The timeline, as I see it, it goes from December 2014 to August 2015. So in many ways, we're actually talking only 7 or 8 months. Now that's pretty tight in terms of timelines. It really came out of the great work that Planet Bowls had done. So Planet Bowls was a group of individuals who would run tournaments, highly successful, and loads of people would enter. And based on that, I think, and again, I've spoken to a lot of those involved running it. It came to a point where the scale was good. It was working, it was happy, people were enjoying it, but where would it go next? What's the next steps? Where does it grow? There was a certain individual who was part of it. So I think it'd be fair to name, as Planet Bowls context, Stephen Robert, who was part of it. And to be fair, saw a massive potential for bowls. Now, there's another director as well of World Series Bowls who is absolutely got the knowledge of it straight away and got the concept. So David is right. The idea was initially £50 in order to run the World Series Bowls at the start. But the idea started to develop and it turned into a £200 entry fee for people to enter the events. And that then would meant to be self-financing with support from the betting industry. And yes, Dave, you're right. Your recollection is correct. It was £10,000 first prize. So the rewards were there and Stephen saw it. And his fellow partner from the marketing side, of course, Robert Pulser, who was a fellow director, and did a lot of the marketing. So we sort of see rumours around that time. We see articles and going around. To quote some of the marketing that came up that was there, this is truly for the players. An open playing field with a clear leaderboard ranking system, bringing with it the highest prize pot in bowls, £295,000 in the first season. Pretty decent number. And again, please remember I'm quoting from the marketing literature that went around. So please don't think this is necessarily my view. Due to this forward-thinking approach, World Series Bowls has secured a TV package second to none, Sky TV. Now, I think people assumed that was Sky Sports or some form of Sky. So it actually was going out on, I believe, at that point, was I think it was called the Greyhound channel. And it was actually run by a company called Information TV. There was a massive gap during the day. So between 10 o'clock and I think from memory 7 o'clock, they were desperate to find something to put out. And speaking to him,
Mark, just off the back of that, obviously with you meeting this gentleman, was he very positive about what could have been?
He, like everybody, understood the actual potential.
Just to quickly touch on a quote that Neil gave us while we were talking to him about the open singles circuit. He really, really believed that the intentions were good and the platform that he'd actually built was a good one. And Neil thought it's somewhere along the line, something has gone drastically wrong and it obviously ended up where it ended up. Would you agree with that? Or
Neil's got a view, which I understand. And a lot of bowlers support Neil because it was a great concept. I get that. I see where the money was coming from. You know, I've spoken to many people independently, and it's all pretty much the same explanation. It was all set up to go. Knowing the directors involved and speaking to them all, understanding Planet Bowls, I can absolutely see why Neil would take that view. I, though, tend to challenge that view only because of my background in finance, and I know the obligations that Companies House puts upon you. There is a chance that money could be recovered. There's no guarantee, but it is based upon a huge amount of work from lawyers. So what we did on that very early on, we appointed some lawyers. And they were a large international firm of lawyers based in London. Very much, it was essential that they had an office in, guess which country, David? Come on, tell me which country they needed an office in.
Russia.
Spot on, very good. Because that's where, we come to in a minute on the timeline, that's where we believe that he ended up. We were very fairly treated by them. They were really good. So that we did this properly, we as the team, when following up, we had to form a limited company. So the reason we did the limited company was that we could then employ lawyers. Yeah. So we have a limited company, which was set up by us all, Bull Traders Limited, purely driven out of sole traders. There is a link. Yeah. We haven't done it at random. It didn't happen. And me and Arthur pretty much didn't do anything for the first year after Mr. Roberts left to Russia. But we've got it. We've got the legal advice. We've got a formal report. Now, the advantage of having a formal report is we do have a terms of engagement, client letter. So actually, the lawyers actually do potentially need to stand by their advice. And there are so many laws. So we're back down to the period December 14 to August 15. All this goes along and we start to see open entries. So I think it was around about April. And David, can you remember what date in April the World Series Bowl launched? The entry system online looked really slick, looked really good. Do you remember the date? What date in April would cause amusement to you if something was launched?
First.
So on the 1st of April, this website went live. Now, maybe that's brilliant marketing and strategy. So credit to the guys doing it, and very well done. Because I know a few people have found it slightly interesting that the date was actually chosen. So big fanfare. And then, up it comes, load of PR, and I think had a few meetings. I think press conferences were arranged. Articles appeared in various journals. Sean Honor was really good, did an editor's note and basically said, look, this is potentially game-changing. And in terms of the unbiased article, fair play to David Rees-Jones. He did ask the question right at the end of it, if it's too good to be true, maybe it is. There was loads of evidence of activity. It was positive. Things were being said. Most of it, absolutely, from what I can see, being challenging it was correct. I take issue saying it was Sky TV, as I mentioned earlier, because the Sky platform. But again, you can see why you would slightly manipulate it. But they didn't say Sky Sports. So therefore, it's very clever marketing. And I know Robert Polster, I've met on many occasions, and he's been supporting us in his work. He agreed to contribute to the legal costs that we incurred, which is great. And he was pretty honest. And we know in terms of timeline, we have the Facebook Live that he did. We know very much April, May, we're reading articles, we're getting excited. And thinking, yeah, this is good. And the first event was going to be in St Neots, and I believe from memory, I think that was the end of September. Now, the team at St Neots, a lady called Hannah, absolutely superb. I think it was at least a month's notice was required, or the monies had to be paid a month before the event happened. So therefore, if the event was going to happen at the end of September, if the monies hadn't been paid by the end of August, for example, legally, it isn't going to happen if St Neots absolutely said, you ain't paid your bills, you ain't coming. And that becomes important on timelines. So remember that there is a date, we know when money should be paid. Now, of course, there's an even more important date when monies need to be paid to the TV company. Now, the TV company, in a way, as I understand it, this is the way the industry works. You have to pay for all the work, cameras, time, everything to do your events. And from memory, I believe, first payment was due around the 27th of July, 2015. For whatever reason, Robert Polster decided to invest some money in order to make sure that debt could be paid. The TV company could be paid. So fanfare, everything going along, and the various people were actually sitting in the offices of Information TV, waiting for one of the participants to turn up, hand the check over. And that, for whatever reason, I believe it was due to traffic problems on the road. It was very difficult for said individual to come across. Unfortunately, on the 27th, the money had been provided by Mr. Polster. No payment was made. Various attempts to arrange taxis, I believe, and trains, but it just didn't happen. So the meeting ended. I guess a bit embarrassing for anybody that was there, and it doesn't, but maybe, let's hope, gets paid the next day or the day after was the intention. What I learnt was the TV company had spent quite a bit of time in Northampton Indoor Bowling Club. So I believe holes had been drilled, ready for cables to be laid, and it was looking good because Northampton Indoor Bowling Club has hosted national events, David. Yeah, I think I met you down there on one, and really good support from the club. Credit where credit's due. They were up for it to make it happen because everybody that got involved, so to answer your question, saw the potential. Yeah, so there was a strong belief, definitely this could have worked, and it's just a question for everybody to decide on the facts, and that's all me and Arthur ultimately want to do, is present facts and information as to what happened. So the question I'm rambled on about, given all that, is do I believe it was a business failure or do I believe it was something else? I have yet to make my final mind up on that, and I'll explain why later.
And there'll be more from Mark later in the show. You might recognise that theme tune, but it was actually World of Sport way back in the 1970s, rolling into the 80s.
Well, I was 78 I was born, so I always used to get Dickie Davis mixed up with Des Lynam. I remember a sports programme with Dickie Davis on, so maybe I was just about old enough thing.
World of Sport was always wrestling on a Saturday dinner time. Big Daddy. The old woman with the armbag hitting them with it.
Giant haystacks and Big
She'll be
Daddy.
done for assault now.
I do remember. I used to watch it at me nana and granddad's.
Easy. We've actually called it the 5-minute World of Sport, where we're going to just dig into a few other sports and give our thoughts on what have you. The main topic of the last probably week and a half has been Gordon Elliott in horse racing, mate. Sport of Kings.
Big news, isn't it?
Yeah, it was sad. It was sad to see, and it was a mistake by the fella, and he's obviously taking his punishment.
My opinion on this one, I'll keep it very brief, otherwise we'll never get the other 5 minutes in. But I personally think he's been made a total scapegoat for the protection of the sport because of who he is, because he's obviously one of the top trainers in the sport. Don't condone in any shape or form what he's done, so let's clear that one up straight away. To be caught in his position doing what he's done, the bloke has put his hands up and said, I'm banged to rights, I should never have done it, etc., etc. You cannot tell me that they haven't done welfare checks and things like that in his yard over the last 4 years. So, this bloke, in my opinion, I know nothing about him, but you would have thought that if he'd been doing anything like that again or any disrespect, it would have shown up, or it would have, something would have happened before now. I just, I think the punishment's right. I think what he's got's right. I think I read that there's another trainer going to step into his post, and the biggest impact on this, there was a lot of people jumping all over him, and I think there was very little thought given to his 70 staff who potentially would have been put out of business. And to be honest with you, the bloke was hounded and hounded and hounded to a point of that could have tipped him over the edge, and he's made a stupid mistake. He knows that.
Unfortunately, everybody has ended up getting tarred with the same brush. Moving on to retirees coming out of retirement. Raymond van Barneveld back in the dark. He's won his card back, hasn't he?
He's won his card back again, which he was supposed to be averaging over 100 and did it pretty comfortably in the end, as far as I'm aware.
Retired in 2019. He's back in 2021.
Yeah, and I, to be honest with you, I think he retired based on personal circumstances rather than the fact that he wanted to leave the sport. You could just tell he was
loss of confidence, wasn't it?
I don't even think it was loss of confidence. I just don't think his head was there at all, and it's not a nice place to be. I've been there myself, and I stopped playing for 2 years. And when your mind's on personal life and home life and whatever it is, you just cannot focus at all. And that was just blatantly obvious to Henry.
Henry, he's back 2012. He put his cue away, come back, and obviously didn't go particularly well in Gibraltar, but 7 times world champion. Obviously needs to get his eye in, mate. Does
this completely resonate with what Ronnie said a few weeks ago about the fact that the younger generation coming through, because he sees a lot of them, they'll play a shot and the next thing they're looking at the mobile phone, and there's the same focus probably isn't there that a lot of the old-time sportsmen have got. I think Barney and Henry have probably looked at what's there and thought to themselves, there's still a bit of a chance, because even in the darts now, it looked as if MVG was just going to run away with things. But then James Wade came up with a comment the other day saying, everybody's a bit much of a muchness now in the top 10, and there isn't a fear factor that you used to have with Taylor and MVG when he was really, really flying, and everybody's now coming up to that level. But it's really interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they do sort of fit back in and how they compete. You look at John Higgins; he was phenomenal the other week in the Players' Championship.
The other one will be the cricket. England, India won one test. That's a bonus. I mean, I think it was only the third time that India had lost a test over there in so many games.
Not surprised though. The pitches have been absolutely horrendous, haven't they?
Pitches. I mean, I've been coughing watching it on the telly every time the ball. There's a cloud of dust comes up.
It suits their spinners down to an absolute T. The test for them is when they come across here, they'll get absolutely torn a new one. We'll do to India what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the same in a lot of circumstances when England go across to Australia. Just, the pace of the pitches, etc., is just a bit of a culture shock. Our players.
We lost Ian St. John, mate. St. Greaves, the original St. Greaves, mate.
Well, that's funny because we're obviously touching on World of Sport. And
yes,
when I says at my nan and granddad's, it used to be that, and it used to be St. Greaves on the afternoon.
Greaves afterwards.
I think they were one before the other, if I remember rightly.
And now it's time for our final catch-up with Jason Parkinson. Crap music indeed.
I've for a few years now, I've not kind of missed my bowls, where at the moment I am quite missing my bowls, where other people, obviously Neil Smith in the last podcast, has found lots of other different things because they've been so involved with bowls, if you wish. They've done, that family have done a marvellous job for bowls. And that it must be noted that, I've only managed to play in a couple of the OSC just to my work, but they have done wonders for bowls. And it's how we move. Bowls needs to move. And the good thing, I think, with Bowls England is, they want to do that. Mr. Cockcroft, he wants to move with it. But like I've said, it doesn't happen overnight. But we need to offer something different. In the northern counties, we're kind of, in a way, we're kind of segregated, but in a way, we're privileged because we're all together. And I do believe, speaking to a lot of the counties, we're all wanting that something different. We're all wanting the competitiveness because, the northern counties are a strong, few counties. We are a really strong few counties. And the stronger players within it that no longer play are not playing for a reason. You start looking at people like Trevor Taylor, for example, one of the best, most gifted players I've ever known from junior level. Played with him, in the under-25 in England team and played with him at Carlisle. A privilege to play with, but are just not really interested anymore. And why? You've got to ask yourself, when people are that good, naturally that good, are no longer playing, we know we have an issue. And if that's through us sorting something within the northern counties to get that spice back, if you wish, we have to explore that. It's little steps into it. It's when you fall out of love with something, it's very hard to get the love back. I've done it for years, fell out with it, not played. I remember the year I had 6 years off, came back, lost in the final of the pairs, indoors and outdoors in about 5 months. Turn up and losing the finals and nationals, you think, this is easy. And then you just lose interest again. That's just me, I guess.
Do you think it's a mindset thing, that, Jason? I think we've touched on it before as well. But do you think you come back after a period of time, and having done it myself, having gone missing for a couple of years, you come back with no expectations. You don't know what's going to happen, so you just go relax and play your balls. I think that change comes when you get to that stage and then you feel as if you're in the following position where once again you're a target to be had. Everybody wants a bit of you again.
Yeah, I think so. Because when you're playing all the time, you're playing lots and lots of bowls, I think you can sometimes get that desperation where you have to win something, because I'm playing every day of the week and I have to win something, where I gave up for 5-6 years. I came back, lost in the outdoor pairs final to a massive puddle, may I ask, in Worthing. And then I lost in the indoor pairs final. And then 2 months later, played in the Champion of Champions, where Mark Courtney had just won his Welsh International Open for the WBT. And I'd drawn Mark, and I just thought, I'm just going to get absolutely battered here. In a Warner Resorts, I tried and played with about 47 different sets of bowls in practice, and ended up playing with some absolutely horrific dream lines straight down the middle, and won it. Because I knew it was a rubbish green. I turned up with these most ridiculous straight balls. So I'm playing Mark Royal. He's just won the bloody Welsh WBT. I'm going to get battered. And I actually beat everybody and just thought, bingo, this is the thing. I have 5 years off, come back and win things.
That just backs up Richie's theory on the game, because Richie's always said tight balls will always win.
Dream line efforts should be eyed out.
Oh, I tell you, I hate straight bowls, but I'd practiced the Friday night with about 47 different sets of bowls. Nothing was going anywhere near. And I just thought, well, I can just send these straight at the jack and just hope I hit something. And I just kept hitting things. bowls can be a very boring sport to watch. It can be. I've played this game for so long and I find it a very, very boring game to watch. So it's how you keep people involved, isn't it? Just add that little bit of humour, don't slag everybody off, because we can all play rubbish, can't we? God, I played rubbish for 30 years. But, it's just how you bring people in and engage. And people need to understand sometimes that you need to repeat yourself sometimes, because for those new 30%, what they're playing, how do they score? So, at some point through every game, I'll say 2 sets of 9 ends. And people going, oh, he always says 2 sets of 9 ends. But yeah, because people don't understand sometimes. The new viewers don't know what people are playing for. The bias and different terminology, you do need to mention it, but at the right time. So when someone's lobbing the jack down, the most boring part of the game, that's your part for me, where you answer your questions of your viewers and you mention what I call your boring subjects. Someone's playing a trail for 4, on the 9th end, isn't the time to start saying, and now we're playing 2 sets of 9 ends, or I'm going to have a bit of cake or something, It's that fine balance. It's harder than people think.
I know, I totally agree. I can't stand watching bowls. I've always said the same thing.
Especially you. Nothing's perfect, is there? You have a clean shot. But, the one thing from this I would just like people to think is, when this new board took over was at a time where there's been that many unbelievable things happening in the world, where bowls just wasn't happening, so you're getting a new board, a new working committee if you wish. You're trying to get sponsorship, that isn't happening, bowls, which isn't happening, and all of a sudden you've got to make something happen. Now, again, with any contract, and I'm not going to go into all the contracts, but people just need to understand sometimes, people are like, oh, this isn't a World Championships, it's a UK international and all that. Well, yeah, we know that. We're not stupid. People know that if you've only got people from the UK, it's not a true representation of the World Championships. But you can't tell me that if it was a World Championships, let's say we had 42 different countries there, the same 2 people couldn't have been in that final. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. They were the best people on the day. Mark Dawes was superb throughout. And yes, it wasn't. We know it's not a world championship, but you need to understand sometimes that underneath, at the end of the day, it's a business. And businesses have contracts, and contracts say certain things where if it's not ABC, it doesn't happen. And for example, if certain companies say, well, if it's not a World Championships, we don't want to be involved with that, would people rather it have not have happened because, okay, we're not going to call it a World Championships, we're going to call it a UK Masters or something. And then also it just falls down because people say, well, we're not interested in a UK Masters. And what's the difference? Well, there's no difference in the end result because there's not been many overseas players, for whatever reason, have won the thing. It's just those awful contractual things at a time in a global pandemic where the board have still made something happen. And okay, all I'll say to people is please, please, please give those 5 people in charge time. Like you've said, 6 to 12 months. They've taken over at the worst time ever. Please, please, please give them time. I can't say too many things, but there's an awful lot of work going on behind the scenes, and give it time. And with a little bit of luck with businesses and sponsorship, it will see better days. But it'll only see better days if we all stay together and promote and encourage, and just, okay, it's not a perfect product. We all know that. We're not stupid. Let's all stick with it, support it, give it time. If at the end of 12 months you don't like it, still fair play, but you must give something time.
Totally agree, Jason, and I've got massive credit. Not just we've known each other for years, and it's great to have you on because we're friends and we chat a lot anyway. But it wouldn't have been easy for you to come on here today because obviously you're involved with the WBT and you know what we've been saying at the same time. So it's a little bit of being caught between a rock and a hard place. So it's been really good for you to come on and just answer some of those questions and put those points across, because you are right. And you've answered probably a lot of questions that people want to hear and want to know. So, going forward, absolutely. I'd love to see great things come out of this. And I hope the new team get together and really drive this forward, because that's what we've asked for years. Not seeing competitions disappear. We want to be seeing competitions added and added and added, and that circuit getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so that there becomes more value on the rankings of the seeds, and people see it as something that they can really get the teeth into and feel as if they've got an opportunity to do something great in the sport. And if that happens, I just don't think anybody will have any complaints. Yes, it's going to take time, but little steps. And if people see those little steps, I'm sure you'll get the backing, and the WBT will get the backing of a lot of people as well. So
because in any sport, without the players, the organisation's nothing.
Exactly.
And people that are just, between, say, top 16 and top 32, stay with, I know they've not been happy, everybody knows they've not been happy. It's no secret. I'm not speaking, out of school. It's just a case of the time, what was going on. Sometimes you just need to make the decisions to make things happen, which aren't going to be popular. But you need to look for the bigger picture. And if they're willing to stay with that bigger picture, those people will get the recognition and the reward. They will. I know they will, because I have confidence in what's going on.
Absolutely. And I really hope that's the case. And I think in a lot of respects, Jason, for all it's been, I've no doubt it's been tough for everybody. Yes, it's been cranky. It's been a year and a half. And I've no doubt it took a lot to get that competition on, without a shadow of a doubt. So I never take anything away from that point of view. But I also don't think that it's been a bad thing, that potentially a culmination of a lot, and I'm talking a lot of issues from a lot of players in the game, has potentially raised its head, and given this time, there is an opportunity to actually put it right. And, proves to be a positive out of COVID, then great, because all that can potentially happen is the sport grows and we drive something new for the future and give people more opportunities. So, yeah, I think there's, I genuinely believe there is potential for great things to happen. And from me, and I'm sure from Richie, I'm sure he'll say, but I wish them the best of success, because I really do want to see great things on the TV, and people want to watch good balls on the TV as well.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants the same thing, and the issues that have raised themselves, if you wish, since the change of board are issues. If people are honest, that they've just not arisen. Those issues have been the same issues, probably going back 6-7 years. But the issues have arisen because people think, "Oh, there's a new board here. I want all these issues sorting," and that's fine. I agree with that. Fair enough. Think, "Oh, yeah, there's a change here, a new change. All these issues will sort themselves out." Give themselves time. They will. You just can't do it all overnight, because, oh yeah, tomorrow it's gone from being company A to company B tomorrow, and it will all change. It just doesn't happen like that. It'd be lovely if it did, for everybody's sake. But, again, on a worldwide stage, it just doesn't happen like that.
Great stuff, Richard.
And that's goals.
Anything
it's great to see Jason's love of the game. I know he's had a few breaks in the time, but he's come back. His enthusiasm spot on, and wish him all the best. I can just echo everything that Davey said. Spot on, mate. I think your commentary box was tremendous, and it was just great to see live balls on the telly again.
Yeah, and it was good live balls as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I think my biggest worry being the commentator, you think, well, okay, people are going to turn up at Potters, no on centre ball for 9 months. I could be commentating on an absolute car crash. Thinking, here he is, 47 yards short, and the players just show their world class. Yeah. A couple of people have had a few roll-ups and things, and people just turned up and took their practice times. And fair play to them. Some of them really, really rose to the challenge. They really did. And it made my job, I know you said I got all the comments wrong, but it made my job an awful lot.
That was great. The two of you, I labelled you, one was witty and one was informative. Do you want to be informative or do you want to be witty?
Professor Witty, yeah, definitely.
And it's competition time, and we've got to give thanks to our 3 sponsors now: Alex Marshall Sports, Lean to Succeed, and Balls as Balls. And the question for today's competition, in our new feature, our 5-minute World Sport Roundup, who did we mention who is the 7-time World Snooker Champion who has come back out of retirement? And you can send your answers via email at wrong.buys@hotmail.com, drop us a comment on our Facebook page, or you can send us a message on either Facebook or Twitter.
And now it's time for the final part of Mark Courtney's update on the World Series balls.
So picture yourself back now. You're now in July, early August 2015. And, the directors involved are getting a bit twitchy, thinking, oh, my God, is it going to go ahead? And, of course, all of us have entered are getting excited now because we're now starting to think about go live. We're into August. We're 4th or 5th of August. We all saw on the website of World Series Bowls some wording that indicated that the thing was not going ahead. And another senior member of the bowling community was mentioned as being the cause or blame of this. Again, won't mention the names. Then basically everybody starts asking the question, what's going on? People are then speculating, where is Mr. Roberts? What's happened? Is he ill? Is he poorly? Is he not well? For early August, Roberts out there, and there's a meeting arranged. So something, I think around about the 8th of August, I think Robert quite rightly did the right thing on behalf of everybody and reported his concerns to his local police station, who from memory advised that everybody who has a claim, has lost money, should contact Action Fraud. So we have the link there. So around it. And then fair play to Robert, he arranged a series of meetings. And the first one was, and I've got my notes in front of me, 12th of August 2015 at Worthing Pavilion, Sean Honour actually went there and spoke to Robert Pulser. So the phrase here is, the man left holding the baby after his business partner and fellow World Series Bowls director put a bleak message on the WSB website, as I mentioned, and has not been contactable since. Great work from Sean and the magazine to promote it. Then things carried on. Of course, speculation is rife. And pretty obvious, everybody seems to believe at some point between somewhere about the 8th of August and the 27th of July, Mr. Roberts probably fled to Russia. Hence the question, is he in Russia? And one of David's questions is, how long for? Now, I believe on the evidence that has come back from the police, from what I understand and what Arthur found out, that he probably came back to this country within days of leaving. So we're not talking end of August, we're not talking September returning, we're talking sometime early August. Now, I believe the police know the date, but they haven't passed it on. But the key point being, when then everybody speculates and when, we read all the articles, so we have The Sun, September the 1st, 2015, page 19, kicked in the bowls, probe as £300,000 gone. We have Daily Telegraph, 2nd of September, article by Isabel Fraser. Police were called in when up to £450,000 went missing from a tournament's account. So there's loads of speculation, and there's loads of us now raising complaints, loss of money with Action Fraud. We were told, as a group of bowlers, and credit to Steve Broom of Bowl Traders Limited, he actually got crime number or got a reference number for Action Fraud, put it out, promoted it and said, look guys, you've lost money, this is what you do, you phone this number, you give a reference of WSB, I think it was, or Stephen Roberts, you report your losses, and Action Fraud will then combine everything that you all report into. And, we're all expecting, aren't we, with the losses of potentially £450,000. Imagine how many bowlers that would have involved. So clearly we're expecting a flood of losses being reported to Action Fraud. And I'm pretty sure Robert would have flagged it. And I certainly did when I did it, and Martin as well. So this process is ongoing, and the police start to get involved. And Arthur's the expert on the police process, but as I understand it, at some point after a game of pass the parcel, from my perspective, the case from the police side ended up, I think it was around about September time, in Kirklees, Leeds. The obvious question to raise is, how on earth have we gone from Surrey, where one of the directors is based, and where the company's registered office was based in Surrey, how have we gone from Surrey to Leeds? The fact is, the bank account to which everybody paid in their monies was based in Kirklees, Leeds. That's why it ended up in Leeds. Right. Now, the problem from a practical side, as Arthur picked up, those of us that lost money were dotted around the country, in many places. It's a long journey for the police to take from Kirklees to go and, potentially interview hundreds of people who've lost money. So you first of all put in place quite a logistical challenge to do it. So at some point, the police decided to select, I think it was 5 persons of interest. But the police then went and interviewed them all. And then they pretty much then carried on with that evidence and information. So people are reporting, and they, of course, by this stage, know how many people have logged into Action Fraud. And one of the comments, observations back to myself from the police was they were surprised by the number of actual complaints that were reported. I don't know the exact number, but one of the benchmark tests which the police apply when they need to allocate public funding is how much money has been lost, who's been affected, how many people affected, what's the impact on the public. Now, of course, we as bowlers, we all strongly believe it's really important and it's shocking and it's, needs to be given absolutely the full force of the law. But the policeman allocated to our case was also working, I think, in a team that could be at any minute called into serious crime cases. So therefore, he's not dedicated to this. This isn't his most important job. So he's then basically working, and others may say he should have done it better or differently. That's not for us to comment. That's for the police to manage. But I've never had an issue with. But so you've now got 5 people, and really it's there. He's got the bank statements because he's legally allowed to do that, having had the crime reported. So he actually knows in terms of those that paid electronically into the bank account, which I don't know what the name of it is. I know that I was told it was called, I think, Bowls Incorporated from the forms I got. Don't know what that means. Don't know the relationship to World Series bowls. I took it on trust that the directors would ensure that there'd be appropriate controls over that bank account. Who's to question it? So we're now probably somewhere around about September 2015. Speculation is rife. Facebook is having a field day, and there was actually 2 Facebook accounts. So for me, trying to watch it, and Martin as well, it just became quite impossible. But it was interesting watching some of the comments. I think the police had access to them from some of the things they said to me. And so what was good from the police with all the articles and what every bowler was saying, it's September. The evidence the police have, despite them putting an APB All Ports bulletin out, they just assumed, based on what they saw, that Mr. Roberts was still in Russia. Now, that has implications because, again, we have to respect that the police authorities and the police commissioners are accountable for spending money. And reading the policy of West Yorkshire Police, to which this parcel ended up, their policy is quite simple. No way in their policy would they have sent or entertained looking at extradition. So from their perspective, it's in Russia. Our policy doesn't allow us to spend taxpayers' money on going out there to collect it. So therefore, until he comes back in this country, in their view, if he came through border control, they'd know about it straight away. And that's fine. Basically, the whole thing just sort of peters out. Everybody moans, some people are planning holidays or trips to Russia to try and find him, to at least ask him the question face to face, what's gone on.
What happened to him? What contact has been made with him?
Arthur found him before the police did. So Arthur was the one that told the police, look, PC Plod, he's back in the country. The police then eventually did something, but then he changed address again. So he keeps moving around. And then eventually Arthur found him yet again. And this time Arthur was a little more focused and basically met him face to face. And what happened was that Stephen broke down in tears and basically begged for forgiveness and basically admitted crime. And Arthur says, all right, then, tell you what, let's do it properly with Mark. So I was advising him as well. So I went quite a lot of my time, pulled some favours in from an ex-audit partner who I knew, so it wasn't just me. We have produced a pretty decent legal agreement to which him and his wife, Yana, were going to sign. And what it basically was going to say was, we admit blah, 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 we will agree, Stephen Roberts will agree to repay £30,000. And he will repay that fixed standing order per month, and it was going to go into a WSB recovery bank account. That was going ahead. So it was all done, all signed off. I showed it to the police as well. They were very happy with it. They were quite impressed, because what we've now got into, if he's now admitted guilt and he wants to do it, it then becomes a civil dispute. And if it's a civil dispute to which the person involved has agreed to repay and there's no physical violence or serious criminal activity, it encourages the police to not pursue him. And that's why I then approached EIBA and Peter Thompson. So I'm now thinking, right, okay, well, money's coming in, and I know full well that there's many avenues to pursue. So I know ultimately I fully expect if everybody that can influence and does support me and Arthur, and does everything they can with CCJs and you know what, I think there's a better than like 5% chance he's going to have to repay us. So I then contacted Peter and I said, look, do me a favour, mate. It looks like we're going to get some money in. I desperately need you to agree to basically take over on the money side and manage the distribution of it. Peter conceptually agreed straight away, but it took him a few weeks to get the board approval. But on this now, I'd love to thank Peter for that, because it effectively took one massive headache off my head. It's all going ahead, and then basically Roberts made a load of excuses and didn't turn up, and then he buggered off and we lost him again.
Without a shadow of a doubt, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of people who were very frustrated by the situation. I think, as you've covered, there was a lot of people who didn't want to take it down the law route and wanted to go and find them and sort them out on their own.
Absolutely.
I think, reading along the lines, and possibly I was a little bit guilty of this initially as well, people just thought this is just going to be a waste of time going to chase something that potentially wouldn't happen and you wouldn't get your money back. So I think a lot of people wrote that off, potentially why they didn't all go to the police and report their losses, etc. Just to sort of obviously move that on from, he's been met, you've potentially you've spoken to him, potentially got something.
Let me then bring it up to, this is a statement from DC Cummings in November 2016 after a number of claimants chased for a follow-up 15 months after the alleged crime was reported. So what DC Cummings said was, sufficient evidence has been obtained to support the allegations in the form of witness statements and banking inquiries. The suspect is still on the police national computer as being wanted and will remain so until arrested. It is strongly believed that the subject is residing in, where?
Russia,
very good. Had done since shortly after the offence. So basically, because the police systems haven't picked him up coming back, they believe he's still in Russia. And as I explained earlier, they were never going to do anything for good reasons in my finance world due to the cost of it. Once arrested, the police were going to interview him under caution and put allegations to him. We don't know what would result of that. It was likely that the suspect would then be released on bail to allow further inquiries before approaching the CPS for a charging decision. When arrested, an update will be given. So I was quite happy. I think the police has explained, given a timetable about what was going on. And it was around that time he effectively was getting a lot of questions, and he asked me if I wouldn't mind being the central point of contact for the police. So hence I believe I have a role requested by the police. I believe nobody disputed my role on the Facebook, and that's why I've carried on as the central point of contact. And it's at that point the Bull Traders team came together and we were working to keep the faith. If you want the numbers, we agreed to fund up to £2,000 of legal costs. I said, well, we'll go up to that. Me taking the lead on company law, Arthur taking the basically helping the police out, and Martin Sonato, I feel, did a superb job in his Sole Traders Facebook group, so he's part of the team. The big advantage of 3 people is that if we ever got to a decision point about returning monies, we could at least have a discussion and a vote. So then he gets arrested, and for those of us that remember, I'm pretty sure it was the 22nd of December, I think it was 2016, but it might be 17, no, it might be 17, and he got arrested and got questioned. And coming back to David's question earlier, he actually got, there's a crime number. And the problem you get in this whole process is that he then gets released, and the CPS, when they reviewed the case as they had to do, decided that there was insufficient evidence to pass their new protocols, policies for charging. And the statement I've got is that basically if the West Yorkshire Police had started the investigation now or at that point in time, the policies meant the threshold wouldn't have been reached and they would never have started the investigation. So we're lucky that actually work was done. What that then means is that gives the CPS the option to say, we're now reviewing the case and we're now applying the current principles to the case. Therefore, we won't pursue it any further. Now, it's not down for any of us to question it. So the facts are, Stephen Roberts has said that he has been exonerated from these crimes. That's been fed back to us. Again, it's for the public bowlers to determine. But what we do know is that there is a crime number to which has been allocated. And the only reason that Mr. Robert remains free, in my opinion, and I have statements from the police, is because of the policy change. So really open question to everybody listening, has the man been exonerated? That's his view. Or is the fact that the CPS, due to resource constraints, changing policies, have decided not to pursue it, but knowing full well there is a crime number. If in the future the policy changes, new information comes to light, the understanding is, from my discussions with the police, and Arthur's confirmed it, the case very much could be reopened, and maybe one day the right law, the right court, he gets a degree of responsibility, and the bowling community has a greater understanding and is able to itself answer the question, was this merely a failed business venture or something else?
Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Mark. Like I say, we wish you all the best with regards to the ongoing work that you're doing, and best of luck for the future.
Thanks a lot then. Cheers then. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Take care, Mark.
Bye.
Right, there goes another one, mate. Number 29. Good to finish off with Jason and World Series bowls.
Jason's podcast went down very well. We've had, as always, some nice comments. So obviously we talked a bit on that one, so there was a bit extra to go on. And the World Series bowls, just giving everybody an understanding as to what's been going on. It hasn't been forgotten about, and we can only wait and see what happens in the future with that one. But there was a lot of disappointed people when that proposed competition fell flat, because it was actually a really, really good concept. And
interesting news from Down Under, because the 2032 Olympics, they're bidding for it to go to Australia, Queensland area. Could the door open for the sport to get in, mate? Because the host country select it's equivalent of a wild card sport to go in, and obviously bowls is higher up on the agenda than it is anywhere else in the world.
So you're telling me that bowls is higher up on the agenda than breakdancing? That's going to be in the next one, Rich.
Yeah. Australia, in Australia. No. Breakdancing's very low in Australia.
Is it? Have you been researching that one? Have you?
I've been researching that, because with them being down under, they can't do breakdancing because they're always on the feet because they're upside down, aren't they?
Oh, is that what it is? All right.
That's what it is. You can't do breakdancing. It's known as ballroom dancing.
Ah, right.
You can only do breakdancing up this end of the world, up the top on the top of the world.
Did you research this while you were doing a 360 spin on your back, did you?
I did. It was the same researcher when I was doing Leonelli. It was the same page.
Oh dear, yeah. Happy times,
mate. But
on a serious note, let's. If it's ever going to get into the Olympics, it's going to be in Australia. Would be all I say. But it's easy just to say that's going to be our sport. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's got to go into that. It's already been looked at and it's already been talked about. But I think there's quite a high cost to actually be an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got to pay something like a subsidy every year or whatever it may be, but I think that was the potential stumbling block, was the finances.
Yeah.
But I think as far as criteria with regards how many countries participate in the sport, etc., which you need for Olympic status, I'm pretty sure we covered as far as that's concerned now. So 10 years down the line, who knows?
With there being a wild card, they might just bend the rules a little bit. They might give them a little bit slack.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, time will tell on that one. But I mean, I'll be 52, mate. You'll be 92. We've got a chance of getting
I mean, Alex and Paul, if you listen to this, mate, your Olympic dreams are still alive, mate.
Yeah,
they'll remake the Chariots of Fire. You know how to do the running. Keep yourself going, lads. Just hang on for another 11 years and we'll see you in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not much sacrifice to make, is it?
Mind you, mate, I have to say, if it comes down between a choice of getting bowls into the Olympics instead of beach volleyball, there's only one winner. You've got no chance, mate. You replace beach volleyball at your life.
We know what you do every time the Olympics is on.
The viewing figures when the beach volleyball go through the roof.
Aye, and I bet you still didn't know what the rules are.
I've no idea, mate. I've no idea. All I know is they get sand on each other.
Just get the ball out of the net, and that's all I'm bothered about. Or see your action.
It was in, it was out. I've no idea. Anyway, mate, till the next time, we'll be on to show 30.
All right. And we'll hopefully start to be able to potentially start to talk proper balls again.
Balls, mate. No more waffle. No more the 5-minute World of Sports segment's gone. They've gone. They've been shipped out, mate.
Right, aye. We'll have no time for it, aye.
It's not called a filler for nothing, you know. Anyway, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show. Keep listening, and thank you very much.
Take care, all. Thank you for listening and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.